Time now, 6:31. At this point, you're looking live over Winston-Salem as a lot of people who live there and businesses, they're waking up to working water in that area again. Some good news for those who are familiar with what's going on and something that they've been hoping for and waiting for a couple of days now. However, some areas like Walkertown and Kernersville, they're still under that boil water advisory this morning.
Yeah, WFMY News 2's Sean Higgins is live in Kernersville, giving us the latest with this situation and what is hopefully to come. Sean, you yourself, on your birthday today, are hoping to get everything back on track. Your family has been dealing with this as well.
Fingers crossed, Megan, that boil water advisory is lifted for the rest of eastern Forsyth County. But I do want to take a minute to just kind of recap where we've been and where we are at with this issue. Let's go ahead and start with Thursday. On Wednesday, on Wednesday morning, Winston-Salem crews discovered an issue with a water main break that disrupted services for the almost entire part of eastern Forsyth County. Residents and businesses woke up to find extremely low water pressure or no water at all. That led to closures of businesses and services in Winston-Salem and the eastern part of Forsyth County as a boil water advisory was put in place for the eastern part of the county. Winston-Salem officials held a press conference at 3 p.m. They called the issue unprecedented and gave no timetable for a fix. On Thursday, water pressure began to be restored in the eastern part of the county as that broken piece was identified and started to get fixed. Then with that boil water advisory still in place, Winston-Salem officials and Forsyth County started handing out bottles of water at 4 different locations, handing out hundreds and hundreds of bottles of water to hundreds and hundreds of residents. As details of that location began to be revealed, we learned that it was not only 40 feet underground, but it was under a man-made pond. And then by the end of the day, we did get word from Mayor Alan Joynes that the issue was nearly entirely resolved, which explains why the city of Winston-Salem got that boil water advisory lifted for their part of the county, but that is still in place for the eastern part of the county, and we are waiting for that boil water advisory to be lifted. Winston-Salem Utilities Director Courtney Driver explains just how that process works.
Once we receive those tests, there's an 18-hour process. And then once we receive those results, we will work with our regulatory agencies to get clearance to lift the advisory.
So you can see it's not a short process, and we don't want it to be a short process. We want that water to be safe to drink, safe to use. But the good news is we do seem to be on the edge of this whole situation being resolved. I know that I am certainly happy that, it looks like that water is going to be returned to normal pretty soon. A couple of days ago, there was so much anxiety because there was no timetable for the fix. They were calling it an unprecedented event. We didn't know if it was going to be fixed in 28 or 48 hours or it's going to go into the weekend. And I know for a lot of families in this area of Forsyth County, there was a lot of anxiety about that issue. And now businesses and restaurants are hoping that this boil water advisory is lifted so that they can return to normal and start recouping some of that lost revenue from the last couple of days. Reporting in Kernersville, Sean Higgins, WFMY News 2.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. So glad to see this progress before we get into the weekend. While we are still dealing with that limited water use in certain areas, here's a look at all the progress so far. You can really see the difference in these two maps. On the right is the new map. You can see much less of the area is shaded purple. Purple indicates the cities and towns where there is still a boil water advisory. The main difference is Winston-Salem. Downtown Winston-Salem, where a lot of the government offices are, is now in the clear.